Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Wells. I'm an Atticus Resource Advisor, and I'll be operating today's webinar with our speaker, Steve Riley. Steve has been practicing for over 26 years as an estate planning attorney. He also had a thriving personal injury practice before that. But for the last, I would say 16, 17 years, he's also been coaching other attorneys on practice management strategies. Steve is a shareholder in Atticus, and he teaches the Dominate Your Market workshop. If you have any questions about that program, you can feel free to email me, Mike at atticusonline.com. But without further ado, here is Steve Riley.
Thank you, Mike. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this workshop. The workshop is called 20 Strategies to Grow Your Elder Law Practice. And we would go on for more, but Mike reminded me this was only a 1-hour presentation. We probably could have got up to 30, 35 by the time we were done putting together our list of possible ideas. But as we go through this, we're not going to have enough time to take apart each particular strategy. Each particular strategy may deserve anywhere from a day to a day and a half itself, depending on the power of the strategy. And some of the strategies are pretty straightforward and pretty obvious, and we'll walk through each one of those. Before we start, though, I want to just kind of point out a couple things that I want to that I think are unique about growing an elder law practice. First, I think understanding the legal technical issues is the easy part. Understanding how to get someone qualified, understanding capacity planning, special needs planning, thinking about long-term care, whether it's proactive or crisis, that's the easy part. To me, knowing how to build it and how to run it is the hard part. So when you start to look at growing your elder law practice, there's two distinctions that I always want to make sure you look at. Number one is understanding the distinction between proactive versus crisis, because each one of these distinctions require a different type of attention to how you market, how you manage, and how you move cases through your pipeline. So a proactive, for purpose of definition for me, is when you have a client that will not need Medicaid qualification or may not need a nursing home within 12 months. So they've got a longer than a 12-month span before having to qualify or having to go into a facility. Crisis planning is just what that sounds like. When somebody is either in a facility or they're going to be in a facility, they're at the hospital, they're getting ready to be discharged. What's the plan? And that's usually when the family is completely stressed out and in total, utter chaos. And their stress becomes your stress. So understanding the distinction between those two is really important, especially if you're going to have a proactive side to the practice where you might be doing estate planning or pre-Medicaid qualification, or whether you're going to have a crisis planning practice, because you're going to run both differently. And then I think VA benefits is a niche unto itself. You could build an entire practice around that. I know that I've known lawyers have done that. But those are really, really powerful distinctions inside the elder law practices that I just want to point out. Say, if you look at this, these two could easily, you want to think about proactive versus crisis, and you want to also understand how VA works and how VA may fit into the scheme of growing your elder law practice. Great. Now with that said, one of the things that prior to doing this presentation, Mike helped me out and pointed out, because Mike and I used to do this together when we practiced. Mike was in charge of what we call triaging prospects. And the whole idea behind this is that we didn't want anyone in front of me unless they were qualified. We only wanted me to be meeting with qualified people, so Mike knew the distinction between proactive versus crisis. And he also used the analogy of meeting with Mike or talking to Mike was like seeing the nurse before you see the doctor. So it really gave the capability to the client. It's a really great word picture to the client, understanding this is how we operate. Now, sometimes lawyers have a bias about this. Lawyers will say, well, no, they really want to meet with me. The truth is they really don't know what they want. They really don't know whether they want to meet with you, meet with a team member, meet with your, they don't know. And so you have to set the expectation, explain to them how your process works. The second component of this is you want to make sure you have a non-lawyer team member as a case manager to move the cases along. So if you're going to work with the doctor analogy here, the case manager is in charge of rehab. The case manager is in charge of making sure that the patient's following up and doing everything they should. So these are two really good distinctions that I think Mike has pointed out here. Number one is that you need someone to triage as the client comes in the door, talk to them, get them set up. Number two, you want that person to also, if it's possible, be a case manager. In Mike's case, he served a little bit as a case manager, but not as much. And really, the whole idea is to help that person, help you compile all the necessary information. And this person needs to have an empathetic, warm personality as well as an attention to detail. And they're out there. They're absolutely great people out there that do it and that can do this for you. So you want to think about this as you grow the practice, because the last thing you want to do is get jammed up with too much work. You want to be able to make sure you understand how to process the work through your firm. With that being said, one of the things that I hear from lawyers, if they're so busy, they're always busy. How are you doing? I am so busy. I am so busy. I can't handle any more work. Or I'm so busy I don't know what to do next. And one of my concerns about whenever I talk to lawyers about why are they so busy, why do they want to market their practice more? Why do they want to grow their practice more if they're that busy? And I would like to point out, especially for the elder law lawyers, so if you're on this call, you're an elder law lawyers, one of my predictions is that over the next 5 to 10 years, 80% of the practicing attorneys will see their income stagnate or fall. Number two, having a business viewpoint about your practice may be an advantage, but in my experience is not going to be enough to maintain a competitive advantage. And elder law lawyers are going to really start to see the effect of LegalZoom-like services on their practices. The growth of the unauthorized practice of law in this area is extraordinary, and we're seeing it over and over and over from state to state to state. And we're not seeing the bars do anything other than worry about what the lawyers' ads say. The bars are not really stepping up to the table here to protect the interest of the lawyers. They're really just focused on protecting the interest of the public to make sure that your ads are appropriate or your websites are appropriate, as it may be here in Florida. And number three is more and more estate planning attorneys are seeing their practices wane and diminish, so we're seeing them jump into the elder law side of the business. In addition, we're seeing a lot of other area attorneys transition from other areas into elder law. So as you think about this, if you're practicing elder law, you're growing an elder law practice, you're not going to be able to stand still for long. You're going to have to really move. And one of the concepts we help people with is the strategic pathway. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time about the pathway today, but if you've heard us talk about the pathway and Dominate Your Market or in the Practice Growth Program, and if you want to listen to a standalone presentation about that, talk to your resource assistant, and they'll be able to give you a webinar on that. I've just recorded a recent 25, 30-minute webinar on this. But it's important to understand where you are. And in my experience, there are certain things that will hold you in place. So if you're looking at the status quo, if you're where you don't know what you don't know about the practice of law, you're working in it, doing it, and you really don't have any personal boundaries, but your goal is to play the practice growth or be a market leader, you want to appreciate there's going to be certain things that always hold you back. And these are things that I call gravitational pulls. And these are habits, these are systems, these are your beliefs about the practice, your beliefs about yourself. These are things that are going to stop you from growing your practice. It has nothing to do with the market, it has everything to do with how you think and perceive the world. The other things that you want to look at is that your team. Is your team trained? Is your team got the skills? Are your team joining on the practice growth calls? Is your team getting the support they need? And do they come with batteries included? I mean, are these proactive people that you think are really going to help? Or are these people that you're worried about leaving alone for half a day? You really want to look at this. So your team are huge gravitational pulls that will pull you back down the pathway. And getting really clear about your goals, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a second. Old habits, how you learn to practice in other places. It took me years to realize some of the things that I learned from the guys that I practiced for as a young associate were awful, were just totally horrible, and they had no real thought process about what they were doing around the practice of law. And then there's certain skills that you don't have. That's one of the reasons you work with our company, is to improve your marketing skills, improve your strategic skills, improve your thinking and communication in this area. And of course technology, which is an ever-evolving platform. All of these different things will pull you back from the pathway as you try to grow. If you're not aware of what's pulling you back, you'll have to do what I call porpoising. You'll bounce up and down, up and down, up and down, and up and down. So the first strategy I want you to be aware of in growing your elder law practice is being aware of the pathway and thinking about what gravitational pulls are holding you back. Now, and this is why the pathway to me is so crucial. In order to implement change in your practice, the first and most important thing you need to have is a compelling reason or goal. And I don't care if that's an exciting reason to you or a scary reason to you. I'll accept either reason. If you're terrified or if you're really excited about the future, I'm thrilled either way, as long as you're moving and implementing change in your life. But if you don't have a compelling reason to change, nothing will change. The second thing is accountability and follow-up. This is why we spend a lot of time in our company thinking about how do we help you implement change in your practice. Why do we have group programs with an accountability structure? Why do we have follow-up calls? Why do we have one-on-one calls every other week with a lot of our clients? Because without accountability and follow-up, studies show that 98% of the time, nothing will change. Change only occurs 2% of the time for people without accountability and follow-up. And then last but not least is a coaching structure and looking for ways to improve your performance. So strategy number one in growing your elder law practice is really appreciating the major concept of the strategic pathway and how that helps you implement change in your practice. Terrific. Now, strategy two, you have to free up your time. If you're going to start marketing more, you have to free up your time. If you're going to market, you can't be complaining, I don't have any time. If you can't do this, the rest doesn't matter. Squeezing another marketing idea into your already busy schedule will result in nothing more than frustration and failure. It'll just destroy your confidence and hurt your confidence about the future. So I have six quick time management strategies. Number one is raise your prices. Establish a minimum threshold for value of a case. So if your threshold is X, maybe go 2 times X, meaning that don't take any small cases that are not worth it because they just gunk up your system and take your time. Number two is get clear what an ABC client looks like for you. So, and we've talked about this in the Practice Growth Program and other programs. What is like what a great ideal case looks like for you? What does a B case look like for you? Like, it's okay case, kind of profitable, clients are all right. And a C case might be a case that you probably you wouldn't have taken but for the fact that you needed the money. So A is your favorite case, B is a good case but not great, C is like you're only doing it because you need the money. And if you're looking at this, you want to get really clear on what those cases are like, because ideally for you to have a very profitable firm, I want everything walking in the door to be an A case. Well, if you're not getting a lot of looks at A cases, that is a marketing problem. So I would say that you probably have to give up the C cases unless you desperately need the cash flow. Number three, don't take bad cases. Don't take cases that are outside your area of expertise. If you're trying to grow an elder law practice, don't take family law. If you're trying to grow elder law practice, don't decide that you're going to take a probate litigation case. They're outside really what you want to focus on. Number four, don't work for free or worse, cheap. And what I mean by that is in some cases, if you make the decision to do a pro bono, that's fine, but sometimes you take cases on where you're not getting paid or you didn't get money up front, and that is awful because it just hurts your confidence, it deteriorates your firm, and it messes up your systems. Number five, unless you're making really good money and you're really happy about it, limit your pro bono work. Only do the bare minimums you're required by the bar at this time until your practice is profitable and strong. And last but not least, go on a volunteer diet. Lawyers, because of where you're at in society, the things you do, your ability to solve problems, your ability to help people, will get asked to volunteer all the time. So limit your volunteer work. My wife and I have an agreement. I am allowed to only volunteer to do one thing per year, and that is to serve on a college board. If I'm not doing that, if there's any other requests, then she and I have to talk about it and make sure it's okay. The same thing applies to her. So we put ourselves on a volunteer diet. There's a lot of lawyers that are joiners, and they feel like the more they join, the more they'll market. That's not been my case. It just means the busier you are, and the more diffused your marketing efforts are. So if you're looking to really start marketing, start limiting how you're spending your time and getting really, really focused on your time management. Next, strategy 3, and those of you that have been around me for a long period of time have heard me talk about these, but this is a keystone strategy. And if you don't go past this, just don't skip this step, because if it makes you uncomfortable or you can't make it perfect or because it seems silly. If you don't have a really great way of explaining who you are and what you do, your marketing is totally ineffective. So you can go out and see 100 prospective referral sources, and if they don't understand who you are and what you do, it doesn't matter. You're wasting your time. So Mike and I came up with some great examples of this, and this is those of you that are long-term Atticus clients will recognize this as a laser talk, or if you work with me, I call it a practice focus statement, and this is the framework. I help, and you got to be clear who you help, in their desire to, and by whatever way that you do that. And here's some examples. So I am a family law lawyer. Well, what does this mean to anyone? I am a family law lawyer. That doesn't mean anything to a lot of people. It just means that you might do divorces. So here's a fun one. We just took the family law one and turned it around a little bit. So this is a little bit more fun. I help the spouses of physicians in the desire to protect their children and themselves from financial impoverishment by using cutting-edge legal strategies to provide the financial support that is rightly due to them. So if you're out there looking for the wives or husbands of physicians and you want to represent nothing but physicians because they're an affluent in the marketplace, then you need to get really clear on how to communicate to people that's what you like to do. You like to represent either physicians or physician spouses in the family law field. Now, if you just say, I'm a family law lawyer, it doesn't mean anything. So if you're walking around going, I'm an elder law lawyer, it doesn't mean anything. They don't get it. Here's another example. I'm a criminal defense lawyer. Well, what the heck does that mean? Does that mean anything to anyone who doesn't know exactly what a criminal defense lawyer does? So here's a great way of looking at this. I help good kids who simply made bad choices or might have been in the wrong place at the wrong time. I help them with their desire to protect their freedom and future by helping them climb out of the bad spot they're in and finding them help and mentorship so they never will be in that spot again. Radically different message than I'm a criminal defense lawyer. That's boring, doesn't say anything, and it's blah, 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 blah. This at least communicates who you're trying to help and what you're trying to help them with. So as you look at this, I would strongly encourage you that you at least work on something here. Now, when working on something, that doesn't mean that you have to work on something for the next 6 months. I want you to work with your coach. I want you to work with whoever you can, your resource assistant, and put together a really, really strong laser talk or practice focus statement that communicates what you do. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be something beyond I'm an elder law lawyer. Great. That was strategy 3. Strategy 4 is to communicate our market back to your old clients. One of the things that lawyers often miss in this area is not marketing to their existing client base, and you can do that by direct mailers, by direct email. You can do it by letter saying it's time to update your estate plan. You can send them checklists or things to consider. Anything from, make sure these people are notified in case of emergency, to doing webinars they can watch, to doing videos, podcasts, newsletters, blogs. There's so many ways to communicate with them. The other thing that you can do is create consumer guides. How not to go broke in a nursing home, how not to let kids control your money. And these are quick guides. These are 15, 20-page booklets that you can either give away or download or send to clients for free because they sell for you. Guides, checklists, books sell for you. They market for you. When somebody hands somebody else a book, it's a way of distributing your marketing message without you not having to be there. It's really, really wonderful. So you want to think about what ways can you currently communicate to your past clients. Terrific. So we went through the first 4 or 5 strategies very quickly. What I'd like to do now is spend the rest of the call on the other 15 strategies. And these are pretty straightforward. Strategy 5 is doing workshops to past and prospective clients. And I would suggest that you divide this. So if you're going to do a workshop to private clients, and this is clients only, you may want to do workshops on changes in the law, the don't go broke in the nursing home themes, how to protect your spouse if you get sick and have to go into a nursing home. Those are distinct from retail workshops. And retail workshops you can also do. Retail workshops are usually when you're buying a mailing list and you're doing doing an ad in the newspaper. Now, Mike and I pulled up an ad from back in the day, and this was an ad Mike designed. And this was a really great ad. It's called "Mom was there for you when you needed help. Are you there for her now? Don't let nursing home bills impoverish your parents. Register now for a free workshop." And we had an online booking process, and we did a 1:30 and a 6:30, and we did it in the classroom at our old law firm. And talking about Medicaid eligibility rules, and we complied with the bar rules down at the bottom, the hiring of the lawyers, important decision, blah, 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 blah. But the point of this is, this was a direct ad in the newspaper that could also be included as an insert and could also be a direct mailer. So there's two ways you can do this: doing workshops back to old clients, doing retail workshops to the public. Now notice I didn't say do one-on-one meetings. I was saying I want to do group workshops so that you have the opportunity to put more people in the room at the same time, and also give them the opportunity to invite people to your workshops, meaning that you can tell them to bring friends and family, because most of them have friends and most of them have family, so they're going to drag someone along with them to the workshop, which is really good for you, because not only do you meet their friends and families, but their friends and families ultimately can become potential referral sources or potential clients. Terrific. That's number 6. Strategy 6. The upgrade or enhancement process. When a client or prospect comes in for a will, power of attorney, revocable trust, restatement, codicils, any changes or anything like that, it's a unique opportunity for you to talk to them about how to upgrade or enhance their existing planning into a Medicaid Asset Protection Trust, or whatever your nifty name is for a Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. So anytime somebody comes in, they don't know they're coming in, and they don't know about this particular strategy, so don't miss talking to them about that. And the two really key words here that I utilize all the time was upgrade or enhance. I don't like to use the word change, switch over, or say, well, gee whiz, I didn't know how to do that 5 years ago when I met you, but now I know how to do it because I just came back from a really cool class. No, you want to talk about upgrading or enhancing their plan to where they're at now. So that's strategy 6. Strategy 7. You got to have a great case management system or client relationship management software. I don't know how you can do this without keeping track of your calendaring, your prospects, your case management, what's going on with your cases. I don't know how you can keep track of your prospects by not coding them appropriately. I don't know how you can send emails out to your referral sources without coding them appropriately. I don't know how you can keep track of your clients by estate planning versus Medicaid versus corporate versus anything else without having a great client relationship management software. Now, we have 4 that we thought of here that we thought were very quick. Clio, which is a great one. Some people like Clio, some people don't. One that we use in our practice, we use in combination with Time Matters. We tracked our prospects through a software program which was $10 a month called Less Annoying CRM. And you can check it out on the web. You can Google that. You'll pull it up. But we use that to track the prospects, and then when they became a client, we put them into Time Matters. We found that to be far more effective. My case is a really hot cloud-based software program that is really tearing it up right now, and they're really getting a tremendous level of traction between with lawyers starting their practices right now because it's simple, it's intuitive, and the training time is reduced tremendously. And then, of course, Salesforce. Salesforce is the 800-pound gorilla, I think, in the CRM software world or in the cloud-based software world, and you can't ignore the flexibility and the use of that. Any of these will work. Any of these will work. I just want you to use them and use them effectively so that if you decide to do a workshop back to your old clients, you can do an email or direct mail. If you decide to let your referral sources know that you're doing a workshop, then you can do an email or direct mail to them saying, hey, I'm doing a workshop on this topic on such and such date. If you know anybody that this might be a good workshop for, I'd appreciate the introduction, or you can invite them, see, here's the invite attached. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get the word out there, but if you don't have a platform for distributing your communication through a CRM, you're just going to waste a lot of time and effort, and it'll be pretty ineffective. Strategy 8, referral-based marketing to estate planning attorneys. My go-to referral source for an elder law lawyer is an estate planning attorney who doesn't do elder law. Now, surprisingly enough, there's a lot of them out there. Either they've been in the marketplace for a while, they might be doing high net worth, they might just not be interested in learning the elder law area, it might scare them. But you want to make sure they understand what the heck an elder law case is, because most of them don't know what it is. You need to give them a good example of what it looks like. So it might be something as simple as this. Well, the type of people I like to work with are families where they have a long-term care crisis, where mom's in a nursing home or dad's in a nursing home, or they're trying to figure out how to pay for an ALF. That's my favorite type of case. So you could give them a communication pretty straight and direct like that they can have an understanding of what that type of case looks like, because most estate planning lawyers that don't do elder law will honestly be thinking there's nothing to do other than let that family spin down. So you want to think about who's out there in your marketplace that does elder law, that does estate planning, that doesn't do elder law, and you want to contact them. You want to introduce yourself. You want to let them know who you are. And as your practice starts to grow, you will refer work to them. I have worked with several firms where over time all we did was narrow the niche of the attorney. If we're averaging a very nice price point for crisis cases, why would we want to do a simple will for $750? If we are getting 20 times that on a crisis case, why would we want to gunk up our system with simple wills? Why would we want to gunk up our system with basic trust work? Why would we want to gunk up our system with guardianships and probates? If we've got a terrific system that's really giving a good profit margin for doing crisis work, you will refer this work out. So you'll as your practice grows, you'll just start getting rid of the smaller dollar items and just really narrow it. Strategy 9. After you get done talking to the estate planning lawyers, go talk to other lawyers and let them know what you do. This was one of the funny things that I discovered and continue to discover over and over working with other lawyers, is that a lot of lawyers refer work out already, but they do it unconsciously. They don't pay attention to who they're referring work to or why they're referring work to them. So if you're referring work out, whether it's landlord-tenant work, personal injury work, family law work, criminal work, any other work that's coming into your office that you personally don't want to do, let those lawyers know that you do elder law and explain to them what it looks like, explain to them what a proactive case looks like, and ask, that's the key word, ask them for referrals. And then expand it from there. If you're talking to lawyers, ask them who they know that might be in a position to refer you this type of work. And look around, who are these lawyers that could perhaps send you work? And you never know what you'll trip over. One of my funniest referral sources, and some of you may have heard the story, was a group of criminal law lawyers, because one of the lawyers called me and said, "Hey, don't you work with old people?" That's all I remember of my practice focus statement. Don't you work with old people? Well, yeah. Well, one of our friends, his mother's got some issues. Well, long story short, this friend ended up being a really well-known criminal law lawyer, and he had 15 to 20 lawyers that were all criminal law lawyers, and they got together every Thursday. Now, once I took care of his mom's situation, he became a raving fan, and all those criminal law lawyers didn't have a choice. If they were going to be part of his lunch club, they had to send work to our firm. Who would have thought that criminal law lawyers would be great referral sources? But actually, they have a lot of volume. They see a lot of different cases. They deal with a lot of different people in a lot of different positions in life, and they became a really nice referral source for me. So when you're done with the estate planning attorneys, start looking around at who you're referring work with. Start looking around at who you might know that could refer work to you, and don't be bashful. Go out there and talk to them. Let them know what you do. Let them know how you do it. Great. The next one is one of my favorites, which is referral-based marketing to financial planners, excuse me. This was one of my favorite things to do. Financial professionals can be great because they see a lot of different people. But if you're going to the financial professional, you want to make sure they're in the senior market, meaning that they're dealing with people that prospective to you. You don't want somebody who's selling term life insurance across the kitchen table to new parents. That's not your market. What you want to do is narrow in on financial professionals that focus on long-term care planning. They're doing long-term care insurance sales because the work that they throw away is really, really powerful for you. That's the work you want. And what do I mean by that? Because most financial professionals, if they are selling long-term care planning in some way, shape, or form, will either focus on it, kind of like the way you'd focus as an elder law lawyer, or they would have, and this is strategy 11, a resource in their database or in their relationships that's called a wholesaler. Now, a wholesaler is basically a person that sells long-term care policies or any type of financial products, quite frankly. But there are people that specialize as long-term care specialists as wholesalers. And what they do is they work with other financial professionals who might have more general practices. And so a wholesaler is somebody that basically gets paid a commission whenever an agent inside their network sells a product. So they get a little bit of an override, not a lot, but enough of an override that it makes sense for them to make sure that they're out selling other financial professionals on why to use certain long-term care policies. And so those guys and gals are called wholesalers. Well, if you can find a wholesaler, they're terrific because the wholesalers are out there talking to other financial professionals. Now, in certain financial planning agencies, such as large insurance agencies such as Mass Mutual, New England, AXA, John Hancock, you may have an agent inside that branch who specializes. You'll see this with Merrill Lynch as well, that specializes. You want to find out who that person is, and you ask them to send you the cases where, A, they don't qualify. If the person can't get long-term care because of health, they don't qualify. 2, it's too late. They're too sick. They're too sick and they waited too long to do any form of planning. And number 3, they may not be able to afford it for whatever reason. They might be where they're land rich and cash poor and they don't have the income to qualify for it, but they've got too much land to, farmer, for example, they may not qualify. So you want to find out who these people are in your marketplace because they can send you work. Great. We are now officially moving on to strategy 12, which is referral-based marketing in nursing homes and ALFs. So this is always a struggle. How do you get in the door? Well, there's 2 ways I would I want you to think about this. The one is what I call the tour method, which is basically asking for a tour. If you don't know a warm way, which is the second way, if you don't know a warm way that you can get an introduction into a facility, if you haven't found a way to get introduced to the business department or the director or into that facility to meet the social workers, if you don't know someone who knows someone to get introduced in there, the easiest way to do it is go for a tour and ask them just a couple of simple questions. Who is their ideal client? Do they take Medicaid patients? What happens if they take a Medicaid patient and there's a problem with them qualifying? How do they help them get VA benefits? What do they do here? What if there's a fight? What if there's a disagreement? What if there's confusion? What if the person can't qualify because they gave away assets? What if it's a problem case? These people, their goal and job is to keep their beds filled with well-paying clients. You're looking for, well-paying patients. You're looking for clients. They're looking to keep their beds filled through patients. And their goal is to find the best clients possible or patients possible. But they're just like you. That doesn't always work out perfectly that way. So the next one is referral-based marketing of social workers and hospital discharge planners. Usually if you're going to market to a social worker or a hospital discharge planner, you're going to take a softer, gentler approach. I would recommend joining their associations. One of the great ways of getting to meet them is to teach. And there's nothing more effective than either teaching through their association or offering a continuing ed program directly. And this was a cornerstone for me in marketing, more so on the financial planning side than on the elder law side. My goal was to be doing a continuing education program once a month. Every month, that's one of the reasons we built a classroom. Every month I wanted a continuing ed program going because I knew that would be a constant way of keeping people coming to our office, keeping people talking to us, keeping people in front of us, keeping our top of mind awareness moving. Terrific. Let's go to the next strategy, which is strategy 14. And we have two here that are similar, but I want to make sure I want to be very clear about this. First one is when you're online, you have two ways of doing this. You can either play defense or play offense. What I mean by that is that 5 years ago, your website was important. Today, your website is critical. Your online presence is crucial because people can pull up what you look like and what you've done on their smartphones. All right, they couldn't do that maybe 5 years ago. Lord knows they couldn't do it 10 years ago. But now it's a completely different program. So you want to make sure that your online strategy makes sense. You want to have an excellent website. And defense means that you're going to offer some free stuff like an ebook. Make sure your page content is up to date. Make sure that your website is mobile friendly. You want to make sure that if you don't have an AVO rating that's a 10, that you get it up to a 10. You want to complete your LinkedIn profile. You want to make sure that all your information on any lawyer online directory is up to date. And fifth, and this is really important, and a lot of people think it's silly, but I always master review websites all the time. If you don't have your photo up there and you're not smiling, you are hurting yourself, because what they're trying to determine by looking at websites is who they want to work with. And I promise you, after looking at 2 or 3 websites and they look at 2 or 3 different credentials of different lawyers, they're not going to tell the difference. But if you've got a high AVO rating, you've got a nice LinkedIn profile, you've got some testimonials if you're allowed to have those on your websites, and you have a smiley, friendly picture, people are going to want to work with you a lot more than having that very classic arms crossed in front of a bookshelf looking stern look. So if you're going to do this and you're going to play defense, make a warm picture. 15 is going on offense with your online strategy. And this is in addition to defense, not instead of, by the way. You're going to have to do your defensive strategy, then you have to add your offense strategy. So it's a proactive, how do I grow my online leads process. Whereas defense is, if somebody's checking you out, I want you to look good. Offense means that we're going to use our website, we're going to use our online strategy to drive business to the firm. So there's a couple different ways of doing this. One is to develop and maintain niche websites. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're doing Medicaid qualification, and you are in an income cap state, you may want to have a website that says Qualified Income Trust Florida or Florida Qualified Income Trust. You want to have a niche website around certain strategic concepts and terms. Number 2 is content creation is critical. You have to generate content, because content keeps your website fresh, keeps it fresh for search engines. You have to blog, you have to put up videos, you have to create ebooks. Number 3 is that you need a fast online conversion process. It's one of the criticisms I have of our current website with Atticus is that if you need help now, you want somebody to be able to click a button and pull up information quickly or call the firm quickly. So you want to ask yourself, if you're driving clicks, if you're driving people to your website, what's your fast conversion process so they can look at it and go, these are the people I want to talk to, and they can call you. Number 4, pay-per-click advertising. We've had some firms that have had tremendous success with pay-per-click advertising, some not so much, but quite a few with it. But I think the reason they're having success is because of, number 1, they've developed a niche website. Number 2, they've got great content. Number 3, they're paying attention to their conversion process. If you don't have number 1, number 2, and number 3, you've got a generic basic website, I don't know if pay-per-click advertising will do anything for you other than move you up in the rankings. And then a Facebook page. I will be the first to concede I am not a Facebook person, not because I don't like Facebook, just because I feel like I'm overwhelmed on there because there's so much information flowing at me. But if you're going to have an online strategy, you're going to have a Facebook page because you want people to like you, you want people to check you out, you want to look friendly and warm to people. Now this doesn't mean you have to be the person posting cat videos or cat pictures. You can have somebody on your staff do that for you. But my point is that you've got to think about, okay, how am I going to get people to come to my website? How am I going to get them to look at my website? Why do they want to hire me? And how do I convert them to prospects and clients? That's your online offense strategy. Great. Strategy 16, create a resource guide. And so a senior resource guide for insert the name of your town. These are usually good-sized booklets. They usually have a ton of different information, everywhere from facilities to ALFs to great places, great things for seniors to do in the area. But this ultimately becomes a deliverable. It becomes a deliverable for you to leave or give or hand off to people. It's a significant investment. You're probably going to spend 6 to 9 months putting together. It's probably going to cost you $10,000 to $15,000 in cost to put together. But once again, it's like putting together a book. Once you do it, it's going to have a lot of traction for you. Terrific. Number 17. This is similar to the resource guide, but it's a little different. This is a consumer guide and a report. And these are simpler, shorter, smaller. A senior's guide to insert your theme. Is it a senior's guide to healthcare powers of attorney, senior guides to living will, senior guides to durable power of attorney, senior guides to qualifying for Medicaid? What is it your senior guides for? Senior guides to selecting your attorney, senior guide to selecting your ALF, senior guides to selecting your nursing home, senior guides to insert. What you're trying to do is create content, create it into a guide, get it out there so people can use it. Another example is top 10. Top 10 strategies, top 10 scams. So how to avoid the top 10 scams targeting seniors. Seniors are constantly being ripped off. It's remarkable the way these poor people are going to be taken advantage of. So if you're looking to grow a practice, one of the great services that you can do, and a great marketing service, is to get a top 10 scams book out there. Excuse me for a second. And then, of course, targeting the caregiver. The caregiver's guide to dealing with her parents. Caregiver's guide to talking to mom and dad about a facility. Caregiver's guide to talking to mom about choosing a lawyer. Caregiver's guide to talking to your parents about not driving anymore. There's so many things you can do with these, but there's all different ways of generating guides and reports. Great. Strategy 18. This is called an annual conference strategy. And there's so many really cool different ways that you can do this and promote this and market it. But this is an annual conference that you put on in your community, marketing it to the elder law, elder care, elder guide community in your marketplace. And what I mean by that is that you may have a 1-day or 2-day boot camp. You may call it, senior, legal and financial issues impacting seniors 2014. And you could bring some of your best referral sources to talk about things like how to select long-term care insurance, how to avoid being ripped off, protecting identity theft for seniors, all different things, how to choose, what are cutting-edge issues in living wills and healthcare prior to attorney, new cancer treatments, new treatment for Alzheimer's. There's so many different ways you can do this. You can get sponsors to help pay for it. You can get different speakers like I just talked about to come in and do it. But most importantly, you have to be the keynote. This is your conference. You're in charge of it. You're running it. Your team's putting it on. You may outsource the event planning to somebody outside your team, but ultimately this becomes an annual hallmark event for your firm. You want probably 50 to 150 to 200 people coming to this event. So from my viewpoint, this is a really great way of kind of getting your name out there and marketing to 50 to 150 people all at once. But you want to think this through. It'll probably take you 6 months to get this thing out of the ground. But if it's a home run, it will make you the go-to person within that community pretty darn fast. I wouldn't try and join someone else's conference here. What I'm trying to do here is create your own conference so that you kind of own the game, so to speak, versus trying to join somebody else's game. Great. Number 18. Oh, excuse me, that was number 18. We're on to number 19. One of the greatest ways to market your elder law practice is to embrace a charity or cause that you love and raise money for it. Whether that might be Parkinson's, or it might be something like hospice, or you have been impacted by Alzheimer's, or whatever it is that is a hot button for you or something that you care about. One of the greatest ways that you can get your name out there is to help them raise money by doing an annual charitable event. That could be anything such as a silent auction. It could be a walk. It could be a run. It could be a private, what do you call it, a silent auction. It could be a gala. It could be a variety of different things. Now, those of you that work with us at Atticus, we actually have a list of different events that your resource assistant or your coach could review with you that Mark and Sean created years ago. There's a really great list of different things to think about as far as planning a charitable event, such as like a golf tournament. I know a lot of people like to golf. You can do a golf tournament to raise money for any of these, important causes. Do it annually, and it'd be a great way of not only raising money, but raising awareness about who you are and what you do. Terrific. We are just on fire, Michael. Number 20. Now, if you're out there marketing, you have to keep a top-of-mind awareness strategy. You have to let people know who you are, because I know you may find this shocking. They'll forget about you. They've got their own businesses to run. They've got their own problems, their own cares. And if you're not constantly staying on top of their mind, they will forget about you. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to give them a legal tome on our treaties, every other month. It just means that once or twice a month you ping like a sonar ping for a sub. I'm still here. Don't forget about me. Ping. Here I am. And there's a couple different ways of doing that. You can do it by email newsletters. You can do it by study groups. You can do it through continuing education workshops. You can do it by consumer guides and reports. You can do it by gifts, birthdays, anniversaries, anything that reminds the person that you're there. It doesn't have to be amazing. It just has to be consistent. Now, one of the examples that we pulled, which was, this is not an Atticus product. This is actually my product. This is something I've been doing for 10 to 12 years, and it's called the Daily Planet. And this is just a really great example of how I've done it, which is nothing more than a one-page email that goes out twice a month. And we have a professional writer write it. My goal is I want my end user to read it in under 10 to 15 seconds. I want them to look at it, and I want them to go, interesting, how do I use this? And so if this is an example of one of our clients through the Daily Planet, because we license this to other lawyers, This is Mike's, and what basically this does is then have on the bottom, the logo, and you can click the lawyer's website link, and you can click the links for any articles that we reference in here. So this is an example. You don't have to use this, but this is an example. I don't want it to be big. I don't want it to be fancy. I just want it to be done and consistent. Twice a month, bingo. Here we are, twice a month, bingo. Just keep our pinging going. Here we are, here we are, here we are, here we are. And usually, from my viewpoint, I like to have it fun. I like to have it relevant. It may not always be about some legal issue. It may be something that may be intriguing at that point in time in the marketplace. So that's just a real quick example of the Daily Planet. If you want more information about the Daily Planet, you can email Kim at greatlawpractices.com. and she'll get you information on that. Terrific. Great. So questions and closing thoughts. I honestly did not think I would get all 20 of those done in the time span that I got those done. So we will stop here for a second. Let me catch my breath. Michael, do we have any questions, or do you have any thoughts that you would like to add on 20 ways to grow your elder law practice?
Well, first, congratulations for getting that all in 50 minutes. I'd like to let everybody know if you have a question, you can do that in a couple of ways. On your GoToMeeting dashboard, you'll see a little icon for a hand, and you can essentially raise your hand, and I'll call on you, and I will unmute you so that you can ask your question. You can also just chat a message to us privately, and I can read your question aloud. So at this time, if you have any questions, please let us know, and we'll call on you. Steve, I do want to just add that this presentation, if anyone would like a copy of it, we are recording it. Let me know. You can email me at mike@atticusonline.com, and I will be sending you then a download link for this video. We do have one question coming in from Tim Alice, and he says, have you ever offered a private client-only workshop for the clients of a referral source?
Oh, that's a great question. The answer is yes. Absolutely. We actually ended up creating a whole process behind that so that we actually marketed it to our top advisors on how to put together client appreciation workshops for their clients. And what we learned was that most of our advisors didn't know how to do workshops, so we had to get a letter approved, or we had to work with them on their compliance side. And so you have to talk to your advisor about that. And then most of the time, I just learned to turn it over to my team. Somebody like Mike would drive that home and get it done. But it's a great idea, Tim. Thanks for bringing it up, because we used to call those private label workshops, where we had a financial planner do a workshop just to their clients. And my goal was probably to get one or two of those in, a quarter. If I can get one or two of those in a quarter, and that's seemed to work really well for us. It really helped fill up our pipeline with really good prospects that came in with a lot of third-party credibility. It's a great question, Tim. Very good question.
Okay, once again, if you have a question, you can either raise your hand or chat the message to us privately. It looks like Marcy Johnson has a question. She's raised her hand. So, Marcy, I have unmuted you.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Marcy.
Hey, I was wanting to know, great presentation, by the way, but I was wanting to ask if you could talk a little bit more about the triage. The situation I'm running into is clients or potential clients are interested in Medicaid pre-planning or crisis planning. I spend an hour and a half with them, and it's always, I want to think it over, and it kind of, that's the end of it. And so I was interested in the triage concept. Right now, I'm really not distinguishing between crisis or pre-planning because I'm just trying to get the experience. But are you having someone, is the triage the first meeting? Say I had Amanda doing it for me. Are they giving the law, and what are they doing?
No, that's good. That's a great question. And Mike, I'm going to answer how I want to answer it, and then you jump on to add anything, okay? There's two thoughts about that. The first is that as the prospect comes into your practice, you want to think through what expectations are going to be set on the phone with them, which requires somebody like Mike to really pre-qualify that person. And Mike's title at the time was Client Services Director, which is pretty much the same title everybody in that role had over the years. But Mike's job was to help kind of fact-find with the prospect on the phone so he could get really clear on whether it was a crisis or proactive case. If it was a proactive case, and it might be more like a estate planning consult with an upgrade. If it was a crisis case, then it was a different conversation. And we might set it up to a point where we get really clear with them about what their expectations should be in the meeting. Then that opens up the conversation around charge or don't charge. Is it a free consult, or is it or is it a consultation fee? In your case, I would imagine that we're not doing a lot of consultation fees right now because you're still trying to like you get your feet under you and learn more. For me, there's four P's in every initial consult. Right?
Okay.
What is the client's problem? Permission to talk to the client about their problem, talking to them about the process to solve the problem, and the price of the first step of your process. And I would like to see, if it's a consult, I'd like to see the consult ideally around 30 minutes, at the most an hour. Because if you're spending more than 30 minutes to an hour, that means you're probably teaching them.
Yeah,
and if you're,
I am.
Yeah, so if you're teaching them, you're avoiding, and sometimes lawyers teach to avoid asking for business or avoid recommending, here's what you should do now. So you may, here's my example of permission, okay? So, here it might be like this. So Marcy, do I have your permission at this point to make a recommendation?
Yes.
See? So it's different than saying, I would like to, would you like a recommendation? So really what we're trying to do is I'd like to give you permission for a recommendation, Marcy. And you said, yes, okay, here's my recommendation. My recommendation is that you do X, Y, and Z in your planning. This is the next step for you. Because once you ask for permission, they're agreeing with you. They say, I trust you, go ahead and move forward with this conversation. So I would look at how you're running your initial. It might be something that we could do on a phone call to take it apart a little bit more. Because Mike would in your case, work as trying to figure out, is it a proactive case or is it a crisis case? Then if he figures out it's a crisis case, he's going to talk to them differently. If it's a proactive case, he'll talk to them differently. And Mike may actually meet with them rather than me. But in your case, you can't do that because of Amanda. And I answered a whole bunch of things kind of jumbly there. Mike, is there anything you want to add to that? Because there was a whole bunch of trying to
Sure.
a couple of things.
Yes, a lot of times you get the phone call that comes in or an email, and then I reach out and I would have contacted the person, and I had a number of questions that I wanted to use to vet them to determine what exactly their needs were, and I had set up for myself some meeting packets, which was information I had gathered for different types of prospects that I would send to them, and some of it might be forms they needed to fill out before they came into the office. They can't have even the consult with me, who was the triage person, until they submitted those particular forms completed. And that would be everything from explanations of the situation to assets they had and that they wanted to protect, a description of their family, that sort of thing. So there was a bit of information gathering. They did not meet with the attorney until we performed what in many cases was an audit. They came in, I took their information that they submitted to us, the assets they had, the goals they had in mind, the description of their family, and then presented them with their options, which could be everything down to, okay, well, you have these assets, you have this kind of a family situation, and maybe this is the minimum of what you would be looking for, which would maybe be a will, powers of attorney package. Then there would be the maintenance package of having an annual documents updated with a trust. And then there was also a Medicaid asset protection trust situation. So I would provide them with information about what these things were during the consultation, and they would leave that with the base price for each of those options. So if they needed to think about it, they had that in their hands. They can't have the next meeting with the attorney, which would have been the design meeting, until they've come back in with a check in hand. And so the attorney's time was never wasted with that, because the attorneys will, through their own personality, start to educate and teach, and they're not getting paid for that. What they should get being paid to do is to actually build the plan and design the plan with that now client. So, if you ever have questions about setting up sort of a triage situation, you can reach out to me, and I can just relay to you my experience and the things I did for myself to not only help me in that position, but to help the clients and prospective clients get the information they needed ahead of time, so that I'm teaching them and not the attorney. Does that help?
That was helpful.
Good. Mike, that was brilliant. You should have just gotten out of your way.
Okay.
That's perfect, buddy.
Well, we have a question from Patty Hill, and she says, do they pay for this audit meeting, like with a consultation with the attorney, or do they not pay unless they made it to a design meeting? And so, yes, they, it's from TJ, excuse me, her assistant. They did not pay for the audit, but they did pay when they came to the design meeting. They had to submit the check before the design meeting began. It was part of my role to, as they walked in the door, inquire with them about how they would like to pay before they actually met with Steve or any of the other attorneys to do the design meeting, because they already knew what the base price was for what they were about to have designed. We have another question, this one from Karen Kaufman. So we could offer a free, oh, wait a minute, I've got too many questions here, 1 second. Okay. Karen's question is, how quickly can you turn the triage level into a crisis situation?
Let me think about that. So if the question is,
how quickly can you turn the triage level in a crisis situation?
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Karen, if you want to type up a more in-depth version of that question.
Or maybe unmute her. Can she be unmuted? I'm not sure if I understand.
Yeah, let me Karen, I've unmuted you if you can ask the question.
What I'm concerned about is when you have somebody who's in the proactive mode, them calling you on a Monday and getting forms to fill out and then taking a few days to get an appointment set up and whatever, if that spans a short period of time when you've got 12 months plus before the need is there, I understand. But when somebody calls you and says, so-and-so is now just got put in a nursing home and I need to, get a Medicaid application out right away, how does that change your triage and how quickly do you turn that around to get the client taken care of?
In the door? Get
Yeah.
the client in the door? Yeah,
Yeah.
so for my rule of thumb was I want it 24 within the same day, if not 24 hours.
Okay.
I want it because the rule, the client, it's kind of, I use the analogy of an emergency room, because if the client is in crisis, they're not going to wait a tremendous amount of time if you can't help them.
Right.
So I want if the client calls and you're triaging the way Mike used to, and you're handling the calls, Karen, you're triaging it, and you realize the triage case, then you have to have authority and permission, which I know you do, to move something on the schedule to get that client in ASAP. Now, the client may come in ASAP to meet with you as kind of a meeting to do an audit to get them organized to meet with Jay, but the quicker you can get them in, the better, because when they're in crisis, they have very, very low pain tolerance. They're totally stressed out, and if you say, oh, I can't get you in for a week to 2 weeks, they're going to pick up the phone and call somebody else.
Yeah.
They're gone.
Yeah.
And I think that right there, if you're able to get somebody in the door quickly, it's going to make you, it's a competitive advantage for you in the marketplace. How do you get somebody from phone call to in the door in 24 hours or same day becomes a competitive advantage. And I swear to you, it amazes me how many elder law lawyers brag on how long of a waiting list they have. Well, you have to wait 3 weeks to come and see me. I mean, that's just terrible. It shows to me they have no sense of how they're, especially on the crisis side of the practice. It's like an emergency room saying we have a 3-week waiting list to come to the emergency room. It doesn't make any sense to me. It just hurts when people say that. My little brain screams. So good. Does that answer the question, Karen?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Steve.
Terrific. Michael, you got anyone else?
I have a question from Patty or TJ. I'm not sure because Patty has signed in twice, and it could be from TJ, about having a checklist for the workshops or annual events. I do have some checklists for putting together a workshop that I can share. So TJ, if you want to email me, Mike at atticusonline.com, I'll be happy to share with you some of my resources for that. And as far as annual events, a lot of that can be tied to the same thing. They're very similar.
Fabulous. Good job, Michael. See, you're getting so good at this, I don't even have to be on these calls anymore.
That's not true. That's not true.
All right, well, it's a little past 5. Let's go ahead and wrap up for today. So, Michael, brilliant job as usual. Terrific job. Thanks for attending this webinar. We hope it was useful and you enjoyed it. I'm thrilled that we got through all 20 strategies. And if you got anything else, any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us via email or phone. All right, anything you got to say, Michael?
Just once again, I have recorded this session, so if it's something you'd like to listen to again, let me know, and I'll send you a download link for that. It'll probably take a day or so. Also, if you would like a PDF copy of this presentation, let me know in that same email again to mike@atticusonline.com.
Thanks, everybody.